r/AskReddit. What is the worst thing to do on a first date? Not ask a single question about the person you're on the date with. Not 1. Also answer every question they ask with one-word responses. I was on a date like this once, and I really wanted to see how far it would go. So I started asking the most broad and open-ended questions I could think of. The answers moved to being 2 or 3 words instead, but I was very impressed with her ability to avoid expanding on pretty much anything despite my very best efforts. The worst date I've ever been on was with a guy who immediately started showing me all the topless pics and skirt-up shots of women he took while in New Orleans. Then he proceeded to talk about ape. So yay. Don't show naked pics of strangers and talk about ape. On the other hand, you know straight away to avoid him. You probably dodged a massive bullet. Bullets don't tend to make themselves that easy to dodge. Pretend you don't know what potatoes are. Nah, it'll be okay as long as you stick with it no matter what. And worst case scenario, you can always get a ton of karma off of it from Reddit. Tell her you're going to have to leave a bit early because it's your anniversary. Listen, it's already 8. Should we find a hotel room or something? Because if I'm out past 10 my wife will get suspicious. Now that's expensive. Let's just go duck on the Cracker Barrel rocking chairs. Browse through dating apps on your phone throughout the date. That's a power move right there. Look, there are a lot of potential candidates for this position. What can you offer that they don't have? Girl, the weather is nice. Me, thanks. Claiming to be the divine on the first date. That's hardcore. The correct reply for that one is you're welcome. Keep bringing up your ex. It makes you seem like you're not over it and not ready to move on. My recent ex used to do that a lot. Like at first I was understanding. Like it was a bad breakup or whatever. But it was mentioned quite often. The worst was then I said ziz and she'd then respond with, my ex used to do ziz, or we used to say ziz to each other. Got annoying after a while. That's a big red light. A girl I used to date was doing the same and occasionally talk about how her ex treated her badly. Then she stopped talking to me out of nothing. Later I found she returned to her ex-boyfriend. I read somewhere that this guy put his hand on the girl's belly and said, soon this will be plump with my seed. As I plant this seed in the ground so shall I plant my seed in you. Isn't that from something? I think it's from something. Merging it with lunch with parents. Several years ago I met a guy at an outdoor bar. We hit it off, so I agreed to go on a date with him the following Saturday. Because I wasn't sure if I wanted this guy to know where I lived, I had him pick me up at the same outdoor bar. As we were taking a taxi to the restaurant, he informed me that his father was meeting us for dinner. We show up to the restaurant and his dad walks in shortly after we do, and immediately notices me standing there with his son and looks super pissed. Following his dad was dude's stepmother, half-sister, and cousin. So I got to have family dinner with all of them on our first and last date. His family was lovely and his dad eventually warmed up to me. I think after realizing that I hadn't planned on being in the middle of this situation. To make matters worse, I later found out that my date was married and had a baby, and this probably further explained the father's cold attitude. Aside from the marriage and kids thing, this guy sounds like the dude who just got sued to move out of his parents' house. Like he probably took you there hoping his dad would foot the bill. Sit down at the table and order food without checking to see if your date is waiting outside for you. I think it's normal to go inside, but not to order. Agreed. We all have cell phone, and who likes to wait outside? I'm from Canada, so it's cold half the time here, but still. I always waited inside, and I TXT when I arrive. Forgot a name. You can always recheck on Tinder. I had to do that once. She noticed. Show up with your wife. I once had a guy show up with his friend. Now sure, meeting someone from online can be a bit awkward and you might feel safer with a friend. Just be sure the friend wants to be there. He was miserable. I tried to make conversation to be polite, but it was just awful. The 3 of us leave after a while and I think that's that. Fast forward a little, and I find out why he might have been upset about me being there. The two of them are now a couple and gone on holiday together where every picture they took were of themselves all over each other. So yeah, maybe don't bring someone who wants you to themselves on a date. Oof. That sounds so painful for the friend. Coming from a guy who has been part of unrequited love. It also sounds very awkward for you. Propose. My wife knows a couple. They'd known each other for years, but never dated. One day they are riding a ferry, and out of the blue, he says to her, "Who's your perfect guy?" She said, "You." They had their first date a few days later. He proposed. She accepted. They're married like 30 years now. I'd imagine dating is a process in which you really get to know each other. Meaning if you're extremely good friends with someone, you could be suitable in a marriage. Only talk about yourself. You have to listen and ask questions about the other person's life and they should reciprocate that to you. Also, going on your phone. Talking about your ex is the worst. I just came out of a relationship, so this is a bit new for me. That's okay. How do you like your D? Yeah, we broke up 1 week ago. Oh okay. That's recent. What's your favorite mov? That itch cheated on me with my best friend. I hope she dies. I used to watch Pulp Fiction with her. It was great. Can we watch it tonight? I farted on her porch and her mom laughed so hard she called her sister to come over to meet me. This says worst things to do, not best. Best to bang the mum. I love you. Like Ted Mosby. Classic Mosby. Make sure you order milk steak and tell her you're a full-on rapist. Works every time. Don't forget to reach for her breasts. In fact, that show has provided me with a lot of don't tips. Don't eat cheese. Vomit blood on her after you were poisoned by your constituents. Assume they are retarded. Wrestle your probably gay friend for your date's entertainment. Be anything less than a 5-star man number gold-dingered. Stray from the dentist system. Leave if once you find out they may be handicapped while your friend gives them some sick ass denim. Let the snail mash it under the table. Talk about your bleached asshole. Pay a carny to stab her. Call yourself frack. Joke about date ape drugs. I want to see someone's reaction to having one of those little styrofoam expanding dinosaur pills put into their drink. But I don't think I could pull that off without being kicked out. The dinosaur just doesn't expand fast enough. Especially with peen hands. Might be hard to do that smoothly. If you don't agree on something, ask how you will raise the kids. Then you could start negotiating about how you would divide assets during the divorce. But that could be misconstrued as playful banter. Stick to your guns. Let her know it's not a joke. You need to get to the bottom of this issue if there's any hope for this relationship, which is currently only 20 minutes old. If she genuinely acquiesces, ask her if it's because she's weak-minded or weak-willed. Because it's just as disconcerting as her wanting to put beans in chili, let alone call it chili after the fact that she has put beans in it. You can make chili without beans. I actually prefer beans in my chili. But there is a legitimate argument that adding something as hearty as a legume to a dish adulterates that dish beyond remaining a variation of that dish. It poses and informs a much deeper issue of identity and molds the basis for value systems. So, are we going to tell our children that chili can have beans or not? Be really charming. Make all the right jokes, observations, and gestures. Make direct eye contact. Be super friendly, but not flirty, with your server. Just enough to make your date say, "Wow, my date is so cool with strangers." Then, when the food comes, eat with your hands. Sloppily. Burp loudly. Don't look up from your meal. Snort and snarl a little. From time to time, grab food from your date's plate and right as you're about to touch it say, "Can I try yours?" Don't wait for a reply. Just shove it into your mouth. And before you're able to even chew, put more food in your mouth. If you can, fart. Then at the end, insist on paying, because that's what a good gentleman/lady/date does. For an added bonus, add "Don't worry, you can pay next time." That's called being an alpha male. Absolute Chad. Meth. That second date hit. Is it because of the meth? Because of what you've done? What you plan to do? Go to an all-you-can-eat buffet and stuff yourself to the point where you can barely function afterwards. Hit. That sounds like something I'd do. I do that, whether it's a date or not. Gotta load up on the money meats. That buffet will not profit from me. Worst possible thing. Accidentally kill her. I mean, if you did it in purpose, it probably wasn't your worst case scenario. Worst possible thing is to accidentally allow your latent HPV infection to come into contact with her seasonal flu, giving birth to a new strain of airborne hyper-HPV that kills 2/3 of the global population via genital warts to the lungs. That escalated quickly. Bring your parole officer. What if you're required to stab the officer first? Just arrive early so you can wipe off the blood with a napkin or